I think this will be the biggest product ever of any kind. We expect to be in production with the cybercab, which is really highly optimized for autonomous transport in probably, well, I tend to be a little optimistic with timeframes.
Yeah.
But in 2026. Before 2027, let me put it that way.
What do you think?
Wow, okay, so I'm trying to figure out how much of what Elon said is possible, because he said a lot of big stuff.
Well, Elon does tend to say a lot of big stuff, doesn't he? Hi everyone, JJ here, welcome back. Well, in this episode, we're going to have a look at exactly what Elon did say at this We Robot event just a few days ago in LA, a big flashy Tesla event, and it was kind of a greatest hits of Elon's puffery. Some people allege fraud rather than puffery, but we'll get into that and I'll explain exactly what I mean by puffery and we'll see what he said. Let's get into it. Now, the outcome of this recent lawsuit is relevant to this. The headline here from Electric says Elon Musk celebrates winning lawsuit over Tesla self-driving claims with embarrassing defense. What do they mean by that? Well, the article starts off, by definition, puffery refers to exaggerated or false praise. It's also a legal defense used by defendants in cases of false advertising or misleading statements. The defendants argue that the statements can't be taken seriously because they were mere puff. Now, it says that's precisely the defense that Tesla and Elon Musk lawyers have taken to defend against a shareholders' lawsuit over Musk's alleged misleading statements regarding Tesla's self-driving effort. And Elon will be talking about FSD in this presentation at We Robot, of course. Now, Musk said about the outcome of this lawsuit, justice prevails, when commenting on one of his biggest fans, Sawyer Merritt, celebrating the dismissal of the lawsuit. Now, this lawsuit was full of corporate puffery arguments by Tesla's lawyers. Defendants argue that timeline statements that FSD-C technology appeared to be on track would be available aspirationally by the end of the year, and Tesla was aiming to release it this year, were non-actionable statements of corporate puffery and optimism. Plaintiffs contend that the statements provided a concrete description of the state of Tesla's technology in a way that misled investors. Now, Tesla's lawyers argued successfully, mind you, that no reasonable investor would rely on many of the alleged misleading statements because they were mere puffing. Now, I've seen plenty of investors, Tesla investors, who do rely quite a lot on what Elon says. I guess they're unreasonable investors, we could call them. Now, here's Elon getting into the new cybercab that he revealed at the event there. Gold-tinged, gold wheels there. He's going through the streets of the Warner Brothers Studios back lot. It's not able to go on streets. There's no steering wheel, no pedals on this. We can see they've got obstacles there, some bikes to demonstrate that it can see what it's doing, that it's avoiding obstacles. He's getting out of the cab and going to talk to the crowd, and we'll see what Elon's got to say.
Welcome to the We Robot Party. As you can see, I just arrived in the Robotaxi, the cybercab. There's 20 more where that came from. And we have 50 fully autonomous cars here tonight, Model Ys and the cybercab, all driverless. You'll be able to take a ride in the cybercab.
Now, in my next video, I'm going to show a ride in the cybercab. I'm going to show the robots, the Optimus robots, interacting with people and talk about that specifically. Some of the puffery, some of the things that went on there. This one, we're just going to focus on what Elon is saying here.
So I hope this goes well.
Now, I would have been very surprised if it didn't go well because, as I've said in previous episodes, as I pointed out here, recently there have been indications that Tesla had been frantically training its vehicles on data around Warner Brothers Studios, where the unveiling event is set to be taken place in October. This was a hacker who found this out, that they were mapping them somewhat like Waymo does. So geofenced, very tightly geofenced, incredibly mapped, so it's almost like the cars were on rails. So as I said, I'd be very surprised, even though the cars don't have pedals or steering wheels, if things didn't go perfectly. And that's what these events are for, to showcase what it could do in the future.
We want to have a fun, exciting future that if you could look in a crystal ball and see the future, you'd be like, yes, I wish I could be there now. That's what we want. We'll move from supervised full self-driving to unsupervised full self-driving, where the car, you could fall asleep and wake up at your destination.
So as you can see, he's selling a vision of the future, his vision of the future that we want and that we can get to soon. Now, about falling asleep in the car and waking up at your destination, as a reminder, this is what Elon said back in 2017.
November or December of this year, we should be able to go from, all the way from a parking lot in California to a parking lot in New York, no controls touched at any point during the entire journey. But there's also a challenge for a lot of people that cars cost too much. I mean, when you factor in everything that goes into a car, and the car insurance, and the car payments, and the storage of the car, it's very expensive. Your average passenger car is only used about 10 hours a week out of 168 hours. So the vast majority of the time, cars are just doing nothing. But if they're autonomous, they could be used, 5 times more, maybe 10 times more. For the same car would have 5 times as much value, maybe 10 times as much value.
Just as a reminder, this is what Elon said a few years ago, perhaps one of the most egregious examples of puffery about the appreciation, not depreciation, appreciation of Tesla.
I think the most profound thing is that if you buy a Tesla today, I believe you are buying an appreciating asset, not a depreciating asset.
With autonomy, you get your time back. This is a very big deal. It'll save lives, like a lot of lives, and prevent injuries. I think we'll see autonomous cars become 10 times safer than a human.
So they'll be a lot safer, he says. As a reminder, this is what he said about Tesla cars back in 2016, which was 8 years ago now.
Model S and Model X at this point can drive autonomously with greater safety than a person right now.
I mean, that just wasn't true. That plainly wasn't true at the time. Now, if you're getting value out of this episode so far, I'd really appreciate it if you managed to hit that like button to help the algorithm to spread it to more people. Thanks.
And it's not just the lives saved in injuries, but if you think about the cumulative time that people spend in a car and the time that they will get back, that they can now spend, well, I guess on their phones or watching a movie or doing work or whatever you want to do. You can think of the car in an autonomous world as being like just a little lounge. You're just sitting in a comfortable little lounge, and you can do whatever you want while you're in this comfortable little lounge. And when you get out, you will be at your destination.
Sounds great, doesn't it? Just go to sleep, wake up at your destination, do whatever you want in the car. In fact, he said that back in 2017 that was going to be very soon. So puffery, definitely optimism, extreme optimism, considering that hasn't happened yet, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen very soon. He does talk about timelines here, though, again.
I think the cost of autonomous transport will be so low that you can think of it like individualized mass transit. The average cost of a bus per mile for a city, not the ticket price, because that is subsidized, but the average price is about $1 a mile. Whereas the cost of cybercab, we think probably over time, from the operating cost is probably going to be around 20 cents a mile. And price, including taxes and everything else, probably ends up being 30 or 40 cents a mile.
That sounds great, doesn't it? Sounds cheap. We'll have to see if that's the case. Again, this is what Elon said back in 2019 about the economics of robotaxis, remembering that they said they'd have 1 million robotaxis on the road by 2020 as well. That didn't happen, obviously.
What would be the probable gross profit from a single robotaxi? We think probably something on the order of $30,000 per year. You say, what is net present value of a robotaxi? Probably on the order of a couple $100,000. So yes, and you will be able to buy one. We expect the cost to be below $30,000.
Below $30,000, he's saying here. Not promising, of course. He never says that he promises. That's his prediction, $30,000. And if we look back at his predictions about how much things will cost, it reminds me a few episodes ago, I did one on the Cybertruck. What do you think he said the price was going to be of the Cybertruck, his prediction back when he was giving a presentation before it was made? $39,900 when they did the presentation. That seems like a good price.
And I think there'll be an interesting, business model where, like, let's say somebody is an, Uber or Lyft driver today, where they can actually sort of manage a fleet of cars and manage, 10, 20 cars, and just sort of, take care of them like a shepherd tends their flock. You have your flock of cars, and you're the shepherd, and you take care of your flock of cars. I think that'll be pretty cool. I think it's going to be a glorious future.
Selling the future. That sounds good, doesn't it? So one person can have lots of cars instead of an Uber driver. We can have a big flock of cars that go out when we're sleeping even and make money. That's his plan. That's his vision. And people like to think that is going to be a reality pretty soon.
Really something special. So, yes, good. All excellent questions. We do expect actually to start fully autonomous, unsupervised FSD in Texas and California next year.
Next year, he said next year for quite a few years now. So we'll have to see if that actually comes true. He's made it just 2 states though, and obviously it would depend on regulation.
And that's with the Model 3 and Model Y. And then we expect to be in production with the cybercab, which is really highly optimized for autonomous transport in probably, well, I tend to be a little optimistic with timeframes, but in 2026. So, yeah, before 2027. Let me put it that way.
Before 2027, now that's not far away. Do you think that they can make it, the cybercab start rolling it out before 2027? It's not long. I have my doubts about that. Again, we have to remember it's okay. Puffery's okay, according to his lawyers, that's fine. Any reasonable investor doesn't have to believe him, because if we look at the history of these things, it hasn't exactly been on target as timelines or production timelines.
And we'll make this vehicle in very high volume, and but well before that, you will experience a robotic taxi via the Model 3 and Model Y program, and Model S and X too. But your 3 and Y will achieve unsupervised full self-driving. With permission in wherever regulators essentially approve it in the U.S. and then to follow in outside the U.S.
That won't be a small task, getting regulators to approve it. That FSD working perfectly like Waymo. Waymo's approved for geofence areas, so they're aiming to catch up there, but a totally different system, just with the cameras and AI, which he'll talk about as well.
So, and Cybertruck too, yes, of course. Sorry, I don't want to forget. Yes. All our cars are basically, all cars that we make.
So somebody yelled out Cybertruck asking about that, about the FSD as well. They've just started rolling that out. I've done an episode where I put that in. There was definitely some problems with that. Initially, when they started rolling that out, it's definitely not close to being a robo-taxi yet.
So, let's not get nuanced here. All right, next slide.
So somebody yelled out there, what about hardware 3? So the earlier cars, and Tesla have said that they would have FSD on that, but he is skipping over that. That was an important part there where he said, let's not get nuanced. Next slide, please. And here we are, which I've shown in previous episodes. Not long ago, Tesla deleted its blog post stating that all cars have self-driving hardware. So this was back years ago, I think 2016, yes, October 2016, that they first posted this, and they've been cleaning up their blog and deleting where they said these things. So it is a question mark whether Hardware 3, those early cars, will be able to have FSD after all, after they've said that. They definitely said that that would be the case.
Like, I have a 2018 Model 3, one of the early build Model 3s. What would that need to be like robotaxi ready?
Are you hardware 3
It
or
has,
hardware
it, has,
4?
it has hardware 3 in it.
Yeah.
Would you still be able to use that?
Good to go.
Yep, so they said good to go. That's Kim Java, who's a Tesla influencer. She was at the event. She does some reporting there, talking to people, and she's talking to France there and saying that definitely that will be the case for Hardware 3. So we'll have to see if that is actually the case. Seems to be mixed messages here where Elon isn't prepared to say that, but they are prepared to say that.
No, even with Hardware 3.
Yeah.
That is insane.
So one of the reasons why the computer can be so much better than a person is that we have millions of cars that are training on driving. So it's like living millions of lives simultaneously and seeing very unusual situations that a person in their entire lifetime would not see. But hopefully, yeah, exactly. So so with that amount of training data, it's obviously going to be much better than what a human could be, because you can't live a million lives. And it's also, it can see in all directions simultaneously, and it doesn't get tired or text or any of those things. So it will naturally be, like I said, 10, 20, 30 times safer than a human, just for all those reasons. The solution that we have is AI and vision. So there's no expensive equipment needed.
Well, we'll have to see if that's true and hope that's true. This is a recent episode with FSD 12.5.4 on the streets of LA. You can see it's sunny there. So one of the questions that I have, so with cameras and AI, is that going to be able to solve for problems like this where you've got sun shining in the cameras and that causes FSD problems? It is right now. Are they going to be able to solve this just with cameras? It remains to be seen.
13 mile an hour. All right, I'm getting the red. Take over immediately. Take over immediately. Take over immediately. Flashers are on, and this car behind me is pissed off. I'm just going to pull over right here. So I did get the red screen of death right then, and I had to take over. I believe it's because of the sun shining into the cameras again. That's extremely disappointing.
The Model 3 and Model Y and S and X that we make today will be capable of full autonomy unsupervised. And that means that our cost of producing the vehicle is low. We're trying to give you a sense of what cities will be like in the future. And when you get in, you'll see like it's really quite a wild experience to just be in a car with no steering wheel, no pedals, no controls, and it feels great.
Now, as I said, in the next episode, I'll be looking at the actual driving in the cars as well as some of the interactions with the Optimus bot at the event, which were pretty interesting.
And you'll get to experience it tonight. Something we're also doing is, and it's really high time we did this, is inductive charging. So the robotaxi has no plug. It just goes over the inductive charger and charges. So, yeah. It's kind of how it should be.
Now, what he didn't mention here is the cleaning process, because one question about robotaxis there, if you're sending your cars out even at night time, who's going to clean them? So we all know about cabs, people vomit in cabs and they get really dirty. So that is a question that a lot of people have. Here they've got robots cleaning them, so presumably they get sent back to base and cleaned when they need to. He didn't even mention that, but it's definitely there in the video. And about charging, apparently this kind of charge charging is really inefficient. So there's a lot of wastage of electricity. And I wonder, just as the US in particular right now is being reported in investing circles and in the news even, that because of AI, a lot of more electricity is being used, and we have to be a lot more. So wouldn't we want to be incredibly efficient with electricity and charging of cars? That's another big question mark. Elon's Puffery sort of says that it's going to be fine, it's all going to be great, the future's going to be good, and that we solved like this. But does anybody remember the snake charger that they had almost 10 years ago now? What happened to that? And this is actually at Tesla. There's a Tesla video, but this hasn't eventuated yet.
What happens if you need a vehicle that is bigger than a Model Y? The Robovan.
The Robovan?
Some people call it the Robovan, but the Robovan is. We're going to make this, and it's going to look like that. So this can carry up to 20 people, and it can also transport goods.
So one thing to notice about that is that it's really low on the ground there. It might be good in the Warner Brothers studio, but it's so low there's hardly any clearance underneath. I'd be surprised if they actually do make this, it does look like this. But then again, it's a concept vehicle. The other thing is there, he said 20 people. What I counted there was about 15 seats in there. So will people be able to stand like they have a bus? So another question mark, how far is this away? Elon didn't mention that. And will it look exactly like this? Don't know, but this one seems like a long time in the future. But again, he's selling a vision of the future, what it looks like. It's kind of an Art Deco design.
So you can configure it for goods transport within a city or transport of up to 20 people at a time. So this is gonna, the Robovan is what's gonna solve for high density. You know, one of the things that we want to do, and we've seen this with the Cybertruck, is we want to change the look of the roads. You know, the future should look like the future.
So that's one thing that people really do respond to. The future should look like the future. And he talked about the Cybertruck there, but it's pretty divisive, the design of the Cybertruck, what that looks like, and of course how it works there. It took them a long time to get that into place. Again, it was puffery in terms of when they were going to produce it. It took a long time to produce from when he first said. And of course the price was $40,000, he said, and it's closer to 100, or it was 100,000. I think it's just below that now. And this was something that was posted on X about the Robovan looking a bit like a toaster, all in good fun, of course. And there just has been some criticism by the iRobot movie director about stealing the designs from the movie there. We can see that the robots, the Optimus robots, similar to the robots in the movie, and the military vehicle looks like the Robovan, the Robovan, and even the car, the cybercab, looks like something from the movie. I don't have much of a problem with that because, you know, artists do take from each other, designers take from each other. You could say rather than stealing things, it's more influence. It's just like music, musicians are influenced by each other, artists are influenced by each other, designers are influenced by each other. So I don't really see that as a massive problem. In fact, Elon's trying to produce a future that we saw in the movies. You know, a lot of his sci-fi futuristic type stuff comes from really when you get the feeling when he was a boy, like a 12-year-old boy in the 80s, he's trying to produce things like a sci-fi future from the 80s almost.
A robot with arms and legs instead of a robot with wheels. And we've made a lot of progress with Optimus. And as you can see, we started it with someone in a robot suit.
Does everybody remember that? That was one of the most cringe-worthy corporate events that I've ever seen in terms of, here's a robot. Oh, it's just actually somebody dancing in the suit. This is what it's going to be like in the future. Do you want to see that again? Of course you do.
All right. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Even Elon had enough after a few seconds of that.
And then we've progressed dramatically year after year. So if you extrapolate this, you're really going to have something spectacular, something that anyone could own. So you could have your own personal R2D2 C3PO.
Now, as I said, in the next episode, I'm going to go into some of the interactions that these robots had with the crowd. There's been question marks about them being teleoperated and not autonomous, when Elon never mentioned that at all. He could have mentioned it. And so there were a lot of confused people. Some people even believed that they were autonomous, that they were speaking to an AI when that wasn't the case. I'll get into that in depth in the next video. I think it deserves its own episode.
Fundamentally, at scale, the Optimus robot, you should be able to buy an Optimus robot for, I think, probably $20,000 to $30,000 long term.
And there's that $30,000 again. It's almost like Elon has picked $30,000 at the moment as what seems to people as affordable that people would buy. Whether they can achieve that or not, I don't think he really knows about that. He did say long term. He doesn't say that this is what I'm definitely saying, this is what I'm promising. It's always a prediction in the future. And so it just really is kind of puffery.
Do anything you want. So it can be a teacher, babysit your kids, it can walk your dog, mow your lawn, get the groceries, just be your friend, serve drinks. Whatever you can think of, it will do. I think this will be the biggest product ever of any kind.
That's a big claim there. He said this before. He said this even on earnings calls. He thinks this will be the biggest product. He didn't mean just from Tesla. He meant the biggest product in the world ever in history, because so many people will want them. So this is, again, his vision of the future, but he's not the only one. There are other companies. There are already competition. Tesla's not at the forefront here. They're definitely the most high profile, of course, dealing with humanoids.
Yeah.
The future where you have humanoids at home folding your laundry is a lot closer than you think. And the price will also be a lot lower than most people imagine. We can manufacture this at a cost of a relatively affordable car.
So that was 1X, one of the other companies, and that was the founder of that company. They're from Norway, and they've got a headquarters as well, an office in the Bay Area. So there is even competition in the US. There's a lot of competition in China. As I said, Tesla's not the only one. And he did mention the price of a small car as well. So around the same price. Tesla not the only company doing this.
I think everyone, of the 8 billion people of Earth, I think everyone's going to want their Optimus buddy. And there's going to be maybe two. And then they'll be producing products and services. I predict, actually, provided we address risks of digital superintelligence, 80% probability of a good outcome. Look on the bright side. The cup is 80% full. The cost of products and services will decline dramatically, and basically anyone will be able to have any products and services they want. It will be an age of abundance.
Okay, another big prediction there, the age of abundance. It's not the first time that this has been around. Again, quite a few people have been talking about this, and this is one of the books that I have read. It's a few years ago now, 2014 this came out, called Abundance by Peter Diamandis, and he's been involved in the X Prize and Singularity University. So Elon does know this guy, and they've talked together. So I think this is where he's kind of got this vision from, or at least that they've talked a lot about it together. And this is worth reading. It's an interesting book, and I'll put a link in the description of this book if you're interested in reading that.
Wow, okay, so I'm trying to figure out how much of what Elon said is possible, because he said a lot of big stuff.
So this is Marquez Brownlee, of course. He's a tech reviewer. If you don't know who he is, got a huge following on YouTube. He reviews tech products. He was at the event. We had him at the beginning of the episode. And what does he think about this? He's made his own video here if you want to see it. I've just watched it not long ago. It's interesting. He goes through it. He's not super critical, but he's definitely skeptical of Elon's timelines and what they can produce in the time.
He said under 30 grand. He said shipping before 2027. He said full unsupervised self-driving. All of these things are very, very difficult. So, but I think it looks cool. People really resonate with the future should look like the future thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And this is from Kim Java again, interviewing Marquez here. And I think he's right there. These things are very difficult. We know that Elon is very optimistic about timelines. He's full of puffery. So, you know, people are skeptical and quite rightly so, given the history of what Elon says. He does tend to get the benefit of the doubt. My last video was about the rocket landing in the chopsticks with SpaceX. And it has to be said that Tesla has scaled electric cars, made them popular. So this is why Elon gets the benefit of the doubt and kind of gets away with puffery, whether it's fraud or not. There are definitely court cases that are about that, and his lawyers are arguing that it's just puffery and corporate optimism. What do you think about that? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to know what you think about all this, what Elon said here. Really his greatest hits of puffery. When do you think he can produce these things? Do you think this vision of the future will actually come true? I'd love to know what you think about this. Also, I've just launched memberships for the channel, so if you want to support the channel more, take that extra step. It's just the price of a cup of coffee each month. I wanted to keep it reasonably priced, not expensive, and for that you get some perks, which you see on the screen, including priority comments. There's lots of comments on the channel right now as it's growing, and early access to videos, membership only live streams and videos, photos and status updates just for members, and member shout outs. So go and find that join button down below and check that out more if you want to. I'd love to see you in there. On screen now, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to put a link to a related video, so go and see that now if you want to. And thanks to everybody for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.